Yo, 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 welcome back. Another video, another isopod video. Today we're going to be talking about the Cubaris rubber ducky. Now, the rubber ducky is probably one of the more iconic species of isopods. If you are new to isopod keeping, the Cubaris rubber ducky, the rubber ducky is not the scientific name. It's as you call it, the not a moniker, a layman term, really, because the Cubaris species is just so not species, genre, family, whatever it is. Cubaris is so under researched that a lot of the species found in the family or genre or whatever aren't given a scientific name as quickly as you would think. So the Cubaris rubber ducky has been in the trade for quite a long time and it hasn't gotten a scientific name. The community has just kind of monikered them the rubber ducky. It's stuck, and that's kind of what we all kind of call them as. The Cubaris rubber ducky comes from Thailand, limestone caves and surrounding jungles. These guys actually are really interesting because the original stock that came in from Thailand, they breed true to the colors: the orange head, black body, and a white tail. However, the store stock, as I like to call it, the colors changed. There is the normal Cubaris rubber ducky, and then there is blondes, blondes or blondie or whatever you want to call them, where their coloration isn't the normal. I'll show you guys the quote unquote normal, and then I'll show you guys what the blondes look like if I can find them. So let's get into it. So one of the more iconic species, this is how I have my bin set up. Air holes drilled on one end that match with the lid here. This is pretty much all the ventilation they need. People stress out about ventilation. I don't really stress out about ventilation, and honestly, my isopods have all been doing pretty solid, so this is enough for me anyway. So here is my bin, 6 quarts. I have a long fiber sphagnum moss trench that go down to the bottom of the bin. The soil is a mixture of organic soil with hardwood leaves, chunks of cuttle bone, and calcium powder mixed into the substrate as I was mixing everything. Especially the rubber duckies. I've had pretty good success with this species simply because I believe I added a cuttle bone into the soil. A lot of the mankai for the rubber ducky bury into the soil, and they're more fossorial than anything. And so I think the mankai, the baby isopods, found the cuttle bone buried in the soil, and they chew on that. Helps great for their, helps out their exoskeletons grow. And I've had a lot of, a really good strike rate for the babies for them to grow up. So let's get into into basically the parameters here. Temperature for pretty much all Cubaris, 75 degrees. Humidity of 80 to 90%. That's just kind of what they like across the board for all Cubaris, really, especially the ones coming from Thailand. The mankai for the rubber duckies are pretty fossorial. You won't really find babies up top. You'll find them in the soil. You'll find a lot of babies usually near the food dish in the soil. Adults, as they kind of get pushed out of the soil because of all of the babies, then you'll find a higher amount of them under the bark. If you're starting off with like a 10 count, you'll never find them. They'll be buried, but as soon as they start producing babies, the babies will kind of push out the adults and force the adults to come up and go under the bark or any other thing you have on top of your soil. Dietary preferences, they like morning wood. I got some morning wood here. They like their fish flake. They like their free straight krill. They like their organic vegetables, carrots, kumquats, squash, anything organic. They like that. Reproduction. These guys reproduce pretty quickly once they're, once they become established. Once they're shipped and you bring them home, it takes about 2 to 3 months for them to start producing any babies. That's what I saw. They stress out. They do not like being harassed. If the adult's ever on top and you look at them, they'll become more shy. You'll disturb them and they'll hide even harder, because you show affection, they pull away more, basically. So set them up, check on them maybe once or twice a week, and then you should be fine. So they're very shy. Even though they're pretty iconic, they look pretty damn cute. They are probably one of the shyer isopods. They're right next to the fossorial isopods, or the isopods that live in the soil. These isopods are pretty damn close to those. You'll never see them if the rubber ducky numbers aren't high enough. So once these guys start breeding, their reproduction rate is pretty high. Look at that little blondie there. The reproduction rate is pretty high once they start breeding. To get started, they're pretty darn slow. So they're a slow start species. But once they get going, they have a pretty moderate rate of reproduction, like a lot of Cubaris do. They're not going to be like dwarf whites that reproduce asexually. These guys aren't tragically slow either. You'll find babies and your population numbers will go up. Just have to be a bit patient. Next up is the cost of these guys. Now, because rubber duckies are probably one of the more iconic species of isopods, there's always some type of demand for these guys. That drives up their prices a little bit. Not a massive amount, but just enough so that they're basically not dirt cheap. I imagine these guys are about $5 a piece or something like that, which is still pretty expensive for a little bug, But, there are some species of isopods that go for crazy amounts of money. Crazy amounts of money. These guys aren't one of them. So if you're looking to get into, a really cool isopod pet, these guys are probably a way to go. These guys do always sell simply because they're so darn cute. And with the name rubber ducky, people that really aren't into bugs can get into these. A lot of the some people where I go to work, they were turned off when I told them that I collect isopods or little roly-polies until I showed them pictures of these guys. And then, they're pretty damn cute. So cost, not that bad. Not prohibitively expensive, but not dirt cheap. About $5 a piece, I would reckon. If you're getting a pretty good deal, that is. Cleanup crew potential. These guys really, because the mankai are fossorial, the babies have a higher chance of survival than the adults. But the thing is, these guys don't reproduce as fast as you want them to. And they get to the size where a lot of geckos and lizards can consider these guys prey items. For, having these guys and have them being predated upon is pretty tragic. I would not recommend these guys to be a part of a cleanup crew. I would recommend these guys to be part of pretty much just a pet only type thing. If you have a booming colony and you have some to spare, you can always try it. Because these guys are so darn shy, these guys have a better chance of sticking around in your enclosure. right? Alrighty, so let me kind of show you kind of what's going on over here. A lot of babies, a lot of babies. Now this is what's considered the OG stock, you know, orange head, white tail, or orange tail, and then a black body. That's kind of what the rubber ducky isopod is kind of known for. A lot of babies down there. Look at that. So let me show you what the blondes look like now. The blondes, they're mixedly loved, simply because they're much more blonde. Takes away from the, you know, dark body. I don't have that many blondes here, because of the dark body. You actually saw some of these running around in that other bin. This is a good example of a blonde. That dark body pretty much disappeared. Orange head pretty much. It's just, yeah, you can see there's one that with a little bit normal coloration in the back here. But this is pretty much what a blonde is. These do come up sporadically with your store stock, which is what I got. If you get the original OG strain from Thailand that was shipped and imported a long time ago, they breed true and they don't produce these blondes. Otherwise, your stocks will. What I wanted to do is remove as many blondes from my culture as I can to see if I can get them to, you know, breed true. But just like albinism or something like that, this blonde coloration kind of hides out in their genetics, which is okay. It's nothing tragic for me. It's just something else for me to isolate and something else for me to have fun with. So that's the really cool, that's the rubber ducky isopod. Really cool species. I would highly recommend for those of you that are looking to get into a pet only species. If you're looking for something for like a cleanup crew, look somewhere else. There's just a ton of other species you can look at. Alrighty, so that's been the rubber ducky. If you have any questions, post it down in the comments. I'll catch you guys in the next one.